there that I wanted to go see. And in that museum, there was one work of art that he thought was worth seeing. He said, and the entire trip was to go see. And it was absolutely, he was right. It was absolutely worth it. And it was an education I've learned from. I've
One second, so you spent like all that, you spent like all that.
We spent a day. No, a day, an entire day.
Looking at
going to this. That was also, we had a whole trip anyway. We were driving from his, where he was and we went to go see one painting. And I remember to this day, absolutely blew me away. And it was an extraordinary sight. And it was tiny. It's like this big. And it was created in a form that no one knows how to make today. It was an art form, a painting on glass that actually was lost. It was a Roman form of painting that was not preserved, and absolutely stunning. So,
I just want to know from the people here: are you still up until probably I was a sophomore in college, I still had when I went to when anybody wanted to go to the museum with me, I still felt like my parents were dragging me towards them to a museum. I think Dr. Feldman come from a much more cultured family, but like for me, going to a museum was dread. I did not correct this with my own children, but with my grandchildren, I figured it out. You take them to the museum, you walk around for a while, you buy an ice pop, and then you go to the gift shop. And all my kids want to do is go back. All they want to do, let's go back to the museum. Right. So what about you people? Do you go to the museum for pleasure?
I love the museum, going to the museums.
Really?
I love it.
No,
it's usually me and my mom that go. So
both of my parents are artists, so we spend a lot of time, not by profession, but we spend a lot of time in museums, and I love it.
When you go with them, that must be very interesting, no?
It is. My mom's an art professor, so she can give the whole history and everything. It's very, very interesting.
What is her special field in art? What does she study?
I'm not sure. Actually, I haven't.
Okay,
That's so embarrassing to admit.
No, my kids have no idea. My kids have no idea what I do. They think I'm a used car salesman. Anybody else with museum experiences?
I only later enjoyed museums and started seeking them out, and now I love it. I failed with my kids. They go into museums and they think we're just looking for lines and pictures and running, like a good space to run around. That's what they like museums.
But there is something to that. I mean, I know I have certain museums that I like to go to, not because I like to look at the art so much, but because I like to walk around them. Dan, you do know what I mean by that? I think MoMA for that is it's a beautiful place to walk around. The building itself is so beautiful, and since modern art is often so full of very brash colors or whatever, it's just kind of a cool environment to be in. So museums are good, and the Israel Museum in Jerusalem it's a good museum. I was surprised when we went there what a great time we had last year, right, Dr. Feldman?
We did.
We had just a fabulous time. It was really, really fantastic. And hopefully we'll be able, hopefully we'll be able to do that next semester when we're all back in our classrooms together.
Yeah, we'll make it up to you guys at some point. Okay. So we're starting, we're off to Rome.
We're off to Rome. So I didn't, this, Dr. Feldman mentioned this to me just in passing. And I then told him that last class together, we were looking at different representations of just this scene because we're reading Virgil's Aeneid. But we didn't actually find this one, and this is probably the most famous one. And since I already talked about it a little bit, Daniel, why is this scene represented all of the time, or so frequently?
Okay. So there are a few things. So we're listening also, by the way, to Pictures at an Exhibition. We're listening to Mussorgsky's oral, his musical essay about going to museums and looking at and looking. There are a few reasons. So first of all,
let's turn it up so we can concentrate on what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, so I hope everyone can hear me, and thanks for the bunch of you who came. This is it's fun for us. As you can hear, we've had a great time doing this kind of thing, and we feel badly that it can't fully be provided to you. We're doing our best with with our own version of it. I'm going to actually do the share. So Bill, I'm going to take over for the share for a second.
Go for it.
And I think I can. I think I can do it. Did it work? You see Laocoon? So this is Laocoon and his
Wait,
son.
wait. I don't see
You see
Laocoon.
it?
I see the same. I still see Aeneas.
You still see Aeneas.
Hmm.
You don't see.
Oh, is that my problem? No. Do you guys see something else?
No, I see still Aeneas.
You still see Aeneas.
So maybe
Okay.
you have to stop your own
I'll
share for
stop
a minute.
sharing. I'll stop sharing. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Oh, there you go. Okay.
And now
Now
you
we
see.
see us.
Now you see
Ooh.
Laocoon. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you see? Just Laocoon?
Who is Laocoon?
Laocoon is a Trojan. This is part of the Trojan War. So Laocoon is a Trojan priest or prophet, something like that. And the rest of his backstory is not terribly important to us right now. Here he is dying with his sons, being encircled by sea serpents, and this you could put this side by side with the. Oh, I don't have it. I should have brought it up. The Aeneas and the Ancaeus. There is by the Bernini. So here's the Bernini, and you guys take a look at it.
So Bernini is the sculptor.
Bernini is the sculptor. That's too close.
Okay.
Now, you have to be open. Open your eyes, open your imagination to see what the sculptors might have seen. Let's look a little more closely. This is Aeneas right here in Bernini's version of 1618 to 1620, exactly 400 years old. It took him 2 years to create this work. Here's Laocoon.
Mm.
Can anybody see a little resemblance? Here's a father, his two sons, Trojan figures. Here they are sort of being the serpents bringing them down, and the generations sort of succumbing to fate. Here's Aeneas, here's his father up above. His father is carrying the house idols. They're on a little pedestal there.
What are house idols? It's like a home entertainment center. What
They're
are
carrying the Trophim we have it also in Judaism, and he's carrying their idolatry, and he's got a very dour look on his face. And down below, sorry, let's get there. I know it's going to jump for some of you as I go down. And down below, you can see at Aeneas's feet, his son.
Now,
what
are we seeing here now? I'm just seeing about unidentified.
What are we seeing? And there's his son. There's his son. I don't know if you can see it. His son. That is, what's his name? I forgot his name.
I'm not seeing the whole. Daniel, I'm not seeing the whole picture. I'm just seeing a close up of something.
Okay, now you can see the whole picture. So Bernini lives in the rather late Renaissance in Italy. He is the master sculptor of the day. Trevi Fountain. You've seen or heard of his works, and the Renaissance defined itself as the rebirth of a lost classical tradition. Professor Kohlbrenner will be telling you much, much more about this next year when you take a whole course on the Renaissance. And the Laocoon was, in some ways, the signal discovery. It kind of is the sculpture that launched the Renaissance. It was lost, and can you believe it? That this sculpture was done about almost not quite 2,000 years, but about 1,500 years before Bernini.
Daniel, we still see an elbow. All we see is an elbow.
Oh, so my share is not working as well as yours. So I'm going to stop my share, and you'll take it back, okay?
Okay, and back to me.
Back to you.
Back to me.
My point is that
we're still talking about Bernini. Okay, good.
This kind of, there you can go, and I'll send you the link to the Laocoon for the comparison. What the Renaissance artists were astounded was that work of a level that they could not equal, similar to the story I was telling you just in short before, about that little Roman painting on glass in Arezzo. They said, how did people who lived so long ago accomplish something of which we have hardly any idea? The definition of the figure in the middle, the kind of drama between the generations, the agony and pain written on the faces of these figures from, here it is, 200 BC, that was found in Rome in 1506, about 100 years before Bernini's adult life, was an astonishing discovery. And it led artists like Raphael, like Michelangelo, and then later on, about 100 years later, Bernini himself, to say, how can we do that ourselves? Now, I'm trying to make a kind of metaphor between the subject of this work, the bond between fathers and son, the bond between generations, the sense of carrying on a tradition, and the subject matter of this work, and the tradition of culture. That there's this idea of that there's some story that goes on over time about very passionate emotion, suffering, the triumph of creativity, and the relationship between, here it is between fathers and sons, but it's really between different ages, between the different generations. And that's what you see, of course, in the Aeneas and his father and son story, where the same trilogy of generations is done not horizontally, but here it's done vertically. He turns it into the same idea, but takes it from the horizontal plane to the vertical plane, where the different generations are done in a kind of column. And this version, I know you saw a few different ones, but this version of Aeneas fleeing Troy was itself a marvel, and it is kind of like a centerpiece of this extraordinary museum gallery on the outskirts of Rome, the Galleria Borghese, where a lot of Bernini's work is located, because first of all, technically, people weren't sure how Bernini was able to create all this, to balance it. And also because of, like, as I'm talking about, the drama, the feeling of carrying on tradition, literally carrying tradition on one's shoulders.
We talked about how, Aeneas is called Pius Aeneas, and you can really see it in his face here, right? This determination.
Well, that's his father up above.
Oh, right.
He's
okay,
in the middle.
Good. Interesting.
He's the one in the middle, but it's.
But as we said though in class, there's really a connection between fathers and sons, right? And Aeneas is doing it really for his father and his son.
Yeah, and the point I'm making is also there's a clear connection, not just between fathers and sons and the story, the narrative level, but also the artistic level. Just as there's Bernini and his Roman forerunner, whoever made the artists who made that Laocoon, between all the different artists who tried to recreate the Aeneas sculpture and Virgil, between Virgil and Homer, there's this idea of literally carrying the tradition on your back and trying to create something new. That's it.
That's awesome, Dr. Feldman. And I just want, what I would like to do now, and welcome to our colleague, Professor Kramer. Good to see you, Michael. So Dr. Feldman has talked a lot in the same way that we spoke about this, is the carrying on of tradition. And we noticed also the absence of the feminine here, right? You see the child is here, and that's the future. It's interesting, he's really hesitant about going into the future, but there's no feminine here. That's interesting about the conception of tradition, especially for Virgil, this idea of going forward, of taking the past into the present. But with the next painting, I want to think about the way in which somebody in the present will look back at the past and in some sense be carrying that tradition on, but also in some sense transforming it. And that's what we've been talking about a lot. And we're about next week to look at the Gospels. And in the Gospels, we'll see that really the early Christians were making Christianity in relationship to Judaism. Judaism is indispensable to Christianity, but also the Christians come and completely transform Judaism in order to define themselves. So that is a move that also really happens through the 17th or 18th century. In the late 17th and 18th century, people stopped doing it because they realize if we continue doing this, we'll just kill each other all the time. The religious wars, the competition between different stories became very, very severe. And we live in that liberal world in which everybody does have different stories and we respect them. It's a very different thing that we do. But back in the 16th and 17th century, in the Renaissance, really where these older cultures are being reborn, but they're also being redefined. I think the person who does it most interestingly, and Dr. Feldman, I've talked about this painting before, this is a painting by Rembrandt. I don't know, has anybody seen this painting? Anybody see it in real life, as it were? It's in the, how do you pronounce the Rijksmuseum?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, that's right. Rijksmuseum.
It's the Rijksmuseum. Right. So, so what is this a representation of? People.
Jacob fighting the angel.
So it's Jacob. Well, okay. I don't know. So it's Jacob and the angel. Jacob wrestling with the angel. Now the thing about painting is that there's a real temptation, just like we have with literature, to skim and to not see carefully. And we've learned now not to do that with literary texts, that literary texts get our attention in a certain way that we know that we're dealing with something that's complicated and going to take our attention. The same thing is true of painting. Paintings have to be read. As Dr. Feldman read that sculpture of Bernini, we're in a generation where we think that all art is just, aesthetic entertainment. It makes us feel good. But Dr. Feldman just showed us with the Bernini, and we're used to this. We look at the visual arts as also communicating in the same way that the written word would communicate, which means when we look at this painting, we have to read it. You have to read the painting. That is, how is Rembrandt taking this story from what he would conceive as the Old Testament, and what is he doing with it? How is he making it his own? Or what is distinctive about this representation? Where would we even, pardon?
It looks more caring than wrestling. Like the face of the angel is so gentle compared to what you would think a wrestling match would be, which is interesting to me.
Like Dvorak saying, maybe like erotic, the touching and the colors.
Right, well, those are two different things. They're caring and eroticism, right? I mean, only you see it's not only caring, there's eroticism here, right? That's weird, isn't it? What else would you say just about, I mean, so what leads you to see it in an erotic way? What you see there, what makes you think of it that way?
I see the touch and the touching of skin on skin, and the angel's leg and the color red.
It's very sensual, right? And the color red also, that Rembrandt kind of calls that to our attention. He puts that physicality in front of us. And also, Dr. Feldman got me accustomed to looking at the hands that Rembrandt paints. And you see just the substantialness of the hands. Maybe we should come back to that. What else about the painting do you notice?
The hands look like they're supporting the head of Jacob more than strangling or.
Right, that's what you said earlier about caressing, right? Gabriella, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I also think the lines, if you look at the direction in which the artist is trying to show you where our eyes go, the lines are quite curved, quite downwards. You're like looking, like your eye almost follows this line, especially the contrast between the red and the white. It almost
wait. So what lines? Wait, the lines from her head down? Is that what you mean?
No, just like the lines of the way that they're positioned. So you can see like the curves of her shoulder down to, it's almost like quite a natural and not so structured. So that could also support the argument that it is like more sensual.
Right. I mean, so you do see that there is a kind of, what I'm understanding from what Gabriella said is a kind of downward movement of the lines, which is kind of pulling the painting down and pulling us down, and the physicality here as well. What else? I mean, we haven't talked about the faces. How would you describe the faces? Noah, what are you smiling about?
Sorry, it just reminded me of a different picture I saw.
Okay.
Met.
Okay. Which one? A
Yeah.
Rembrandt as well?
It was actually no. It was actually a statue, and there was a really twisted story behind it, so I just remembered it.
Well, we do in our course, we do lots of twisted stories.
Yeah.
So what about the faces?
They seem
They-
pretty relaxed. That I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
It looks to me as though he's actually falling asleep.
does
that
that what
might
it,
just be-
does that what it looks like? Do other people think he's falling asleep? I mean,
I think it's just one of the part of the eye that we could actually
no, I see his eyes are closed. I'm wondering what else that could be.
I think he looks like he's in pain, and she's looking at him like with a quizzical look.
Wait. She? We didn't even talk about that. We didn't get to that. Well, what is
It looks feminine.
what is the gender of this angel? I mean, I didn't check recently, but the last time I looked at the story of Genesis, it's not the angel is not it's masculine.
True, but it does look feminine here.
It does, doesn't it? And you can on this part of her arm also. I don't know. It could go either way. And when I just looked at it, I first saw it as feminine, but the musculineness of it also makes it feel masculine. If you look at it down, it's feminine. You look at it up, it's masculine. And that is Rembrandt, that he's able to convey so much in just the smallest possible details, right? That he can do that. But let's go back to this face. He's sleeping. I mean, how does that go along with the other aspects of the sensuality of it? I mean, the hands again, and kind of the more you look at it, the more erotic it becomes, no?
Also, the placement of his head, it's right by her breasts.
Oh, and you were saying before that this angel, and makes it ambivalent or ambiguous. Is the angel cradling him, caressing him, or you said? I mean, the scene is biblically wrestling, right? It's a very different kind of wrestling. So why would Rembrandt want to sexualize it this way? Or let me ask you another, nobody talked about the wings. Tell me about the wings and how Rembrandt paints them.
Take a second to notice. I think they're in the background.
How does that affect my experience of the painting, though? That they're in the background, or that it takes a minute to notice?
I think it shows that the angel might appear human at first. They have human features rather than them actually being an angel.
And if, as Gabriella says, the painting kind of pulls down, it almost looks like Eleni says that the wings themselves are falling into the background. It's almost like they're not attached to him or her. Right? You just see the fleshliness of this. So again, I would ask you, what is Rembrandt conveying in doing this? I mean, now that we've taken account of these data points, what does he do by this? And I would ask, maybe to sharpen the question a little bit, is why are the angels, or why is the angel so fleshly? I mean, the hand, we said before, it's such flesh there. Why does Rembrandt do that?
Does it have anything to do with the story in Genesis, where angels came down to earth and had children by human beings?
That happens in Genesis?
That happened before the generation of the flood.
Oh, and you mean like this in Midrashim or something?
Yeah, Midrash. Yeah, it's not in the Pshat. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know I don't know how well. I mean, I think it's right to think of Rembrandt as a midrashist. Did we talk about what a midrashist is, right? A midrashist in the Renaissance, yeah.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Oh, we talked in the other class that to be a midrashist means to take this rabbinic form of reading, which was specific to reading the Holy Scriptures and to interpret them. So also you can kind of use it metaphorically and say that Rembrandt is in a way painting a midrash of Jacob and this angel. And his midrash I like the word midrash because it emphasizes the extent to which this really is an interpretation. And this is going back to what Dr. Feldman was talking about earlier, about tradition, about bringing something into the present. So here Rembrandt brings this picture or this scene into the present just in a very highly distinctive way. I mean, I don't know if you knew those stories. Probably not, but just let's look at feeling the painting. When we look at the painting, and just a little survey, does the painting look different now than it did when we first looked at it? Right, a lot different, right? You just start to see it. And Rembrandt just does that. That's what Dr. Feldman said earlier. You spend a day looking at the painting, right? Because then you start seeing things, you start seeing it. So what about the sexuality? Why would Rembrandt paint, I'm sorry, just getting messages. Why would Rembrandt paint the angel in such a physical way?
Definitely, like, I think challenges like a definition of angels that they're like spiritual and not physical. If this one looks physical, then it gets us to think about that.
So does that make it less spiritual a painting? I mean, I hate those terms, but by saying that the angel looks physical, does that make it less spiritual?
I don't know if this is a claim on the spirituality, but I think it's quite, isn't this sense of painting quite done by Rembrandt? As in, I know that there's another painting that he does of the story of Bathsheba and David, which is also quite, I mean, that one's a bit more explicit, but also quite characteristic of him to be painting these like biblical scenes in a more sensual way. And maybe it could be like an almost like taboo thing that he's trying to uncover.
Okay, I mean, what do you mean by taboo?
No, it's just
what's the
spin.
What's the taboo here? I mean, I'm wondering, and you were addressing the question I asked, and I would just ask it again. Is this a downgrading of the spiritual by making the angel so physical?
Maybe this is far-fetched, but maybe by like making the wings withdrawn to the background and the angel looking more human, and maybe it's showing the balance of the wrestling between them, that he's wrestling something that he can match himself against, not something that is way more powerful, that there's an equalization between them.
That's very interesting. So that makes them, they're both in a way this kind of human, and that would make, oopsie, sorry about that. Oopsie, that's mine also. I see Jacob really, I see him in ecstasy. I don't see him sleeping. I mean, I think there is this sense of kind of going back on what people were saying before about the sexuality of it, the physicality of it. I think that's a possible way of reading it, especially look how he's holding him or her, right? I mean, it starts out being a spiritual image, but the more you look at it, the more explicitly sexual it becomes. So maybe that's what Dvorak says. It's kind of making them equal. So going back to my question though, so what does that do when you say that you're making the sacred and the physical, when you're making them equal? Again, is that a downgrading of the sacred?
Not at all. I don't think so.
What would you say then, only?
I think maybe at the time it would have been, and maybe that's what he's trying to challenge.
Guys, I have to keep on telling my Renaissance class, as perverse as you think you are, they were much more perverse than you are, right? Our minds are closed compared to them. So at least compared to Rembrandt, maybe you're talking about his audience, and I'm not even so sure about that. But regardless of the audience, sorry, Elmi, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I think it's offering, like you're saying, a definition of spirituality that can be physical and can embrace physicality.
So that's interesting. So in a way, Rembrandt may be coming, I see what you were saying. So Rembrandt may be coming in relationship to a worldview. This was what Elmi was saying, in which you think of angels as one thing and humans as other things. And you think of sexuality as one thing and the spiritual as something else. And Rembrandt is suggesting with this painting that the human and the sacred are not so separate. And the sexual and the spiritual and even the sublime are not so separate, right? And that you really are getting in this picture it's not, and I think a lot of people look at a Northern Dutch painting like this of the 17th century, they say, well, you see that the world is becoming secular. And I don't think that's true. I mean, the world eventually does become more secular. And Rembrandt takes these scenes, these biblical scenes, and puts them into natural environments. But I think by doing that, by putting them into natural environments, he makes the everyday into something that's sacred. He says, look at the everyday. Look at this. This is where the sacred is happening.
Can I just ask, isn't there a thing, I'm really bad at the classical period and all of these.
You're not in our class, Sarah, right?
I have to redo my BA. That's the truth. But I'm just wondering, wasn't it also during, I don't know if it was this time, that they couldn't really paint what they really wanted unless they did it through biblical scenes or...
Okay. I wouldn't put it exactly that way, but maybe the vocabulary that they had or the dictionaries that they had were limited. So during the Middle Ages, for example, you have, go to the Metropolitan Museum and they're like thousands of virgins and childs, right? Have you seen representations of these? Look at this, right? I love this. There are a billion of them, right?
How everything changes from very religious to...
Well, right, you have different ones. This must be a modern one. But even the medieval ones, even that are very much religious, meaning they look like that, there's some of the artists express themselves differently with each one. I mean, look at this one. That's kind of weird, right? That the picture itself becomes the vehicle by which the painter expresses himself. And really what Sarah is saying is you can't paint anything you want. I mean, nobody ever can. You can never do everything you want. You're always working with a certain kind of vocabulary. And I think Sarah's comment is useful in thinking about, well, Rembrandt is using the vocabulary of the Old Testament and he's making it his own. And I think that's a theme that we've been talking a lot about and we'll talk more about in the coming weeks, this idea of going back to a previous tradition and making something your own. We did this with Virgil, right? We said, on the one hand, Virgil is taking everything from Homer. On the other hand, he says, compared to Homer, Rome is so much better, that he's able to, with the appreciation that Virgil has for Homer, is on the one hand going back with reverence and awe, but also making it his own, taking the epic and making it Roman. So here Rembrandt takes the experience, the story between Jacob and the angel and makes it his own. He expresses what he wants to express. So I guess Dr. Feldman, Daniel, I mean, maybe it's now the time that we should wander down.
So let's go. We have two different. I was going to suggest we go this painting that the painting of Rembrandt's. I'm going to share the link where you can find it. It's actually in Berlin. So maybe some people want to go to, that's Berlin above, and other people may want to go to Amsterdam down below, where there is also a phenomenal, in the Rijksmuseum, a phenomenal collection of Rembrandt and even more so Vermeer.
And they're good bars for after, and they're good bars and cafes for afterwards in Amsterdam.
Both have fabulous cafes. The Gewelde Gallery and the Kunstforum in Berlin, and in the Rijksmuseum in the...
I mean, if you feel like going to London, I put up a link for the National Gallery. And if you feel like going to Florence, you can go to the Uffizi Gallery. But so I think, and we have on the very top, I posted a Padlet by which you can find the paintings that you like and put them up in our Padlet. Here is our Padlet, right? At this point is empty. So put up a painting or two and think about what, and we like to talk about why you like it. So I think it would be interesting to either do a painting which is a Renaissance painting, which all of these are, of the classical period, or a Renaissance painting of the Old Testament, or even New Testament, either one, right? And to think about, and to start and think a little bit about the questions that Dr. Feldman and I raised. Okay, so
we're going to come back and
we don't have to go. We don't have to go to breakout rooms, but you could turn your cameras off. It'll probably take a minute or two to figure out how to navigate these sites, but this is the fun part. Explore.
And Bill, you want to put on Professor Colburn? You want to put on
Oh, then
our
they-
museum music?
I'll
Yeah.
put on our museum music. Yes, good. If anybody's having a really great time in some city, you know, shout it out to us. Cool.
I have a general question.
Yeah.
What's the time difference between the paintings in Berlin and the paintings in Amsterdam? Because the ones in Berlin seem more biblical, and the ones in Amsterdam seem more like everyday life. So what are the historical periods?
Well,
That's not
that's
true.
But well, but no, it is interesting. No, but I mean, it probably not. It's the Dutch Northern Dutch painting is especially known for really emphasizing in ways that had never been done before the everyday. Vermeer, as Dr. Feldman says, though, museums get what they want. They get what they can get their hands on, right? And Berlin and Amsterdam both have just amazing collections. It's not. It probably is true that Amsterdam has the best Dutch Northern European painting, and really, and it really is the best painting ever. But Berlin has great stuff also.
What period is this? Is this?
Oh, the Renaissance, 16th, 17th century.
Both of these are the Renaissance. Both depictions.
The ones, yeah, Bernini is also 17th century.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question as well? There's a
Yeah,
painting
sure.
I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I know, I just don't remember what it's called. It's like the Death of Jacob. I think it might be in Amsterdam, but I don't remember.
Well, who's the painter?
Berlin.
Who's the painter?
So I don't remember. I don't know if you know, but the Death of Jacob. I think it's like quite dark.
I don't know. And you Google the Death of Jacob, you don't get anything?
And maybe I'm not.
Ooh, this is, I mean, Rembrandt you see he's just crazy here, right? And every one of Rembrandt's paintings almost everyone repays the attention we gave it before. I don't know the Death of Jacob. Expand your horizons, find something else.
I missed the instruction. Should we upload a picture from the Renaissance era or any that we like?
Well, I mean, you can, any painting that you like, but I was thinking, since we were talking about the ways in which the way in which a certain present would look back to the past, just as we saw in Aeneas and just as we saw in Rembrandt, looking back at the Old Testament scene. I mean, in the Renaissance, people are all of a sudden going back. That's why I suggested we look at Renaissance paintings. So either a Renaissance painting of a classical scene, Renaissance painting of a biblical scene.
Where's the link
Okay,
to Padlet?
On the very, very top.
One of my favorites is from the Dutch Baroque
Okay.
era.
Okay. I think Rembrandt probably fits in that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll upload it.
Go for it. Yeah, whatever you want. It's, whatever. I'm just saying that since we were talking about taking something from the past and making present, I just made that suggestion. But any painting that you guys like. Ooh. Ooh. See, this is a cool one, right? This is the idea, right?
Where's the link for the Padlet? I don't
Isn't
find it in the
it-
chat.
It's not all the way on the top. Oh, let me give it again then.
Maybe.
I
No,
think
don't
you
see
probably
it.
posted it before we got in, so we couldn't.
Oh, I
it.
see. It only works if you do that. I see it in my. If I just do this, well, it should work probably. Oh, I just sent it to it as a direct message. Sorry about that. I ordered pizza. See if you can share the picture, not just the link, so we can see it, yeah? Anonymous over here. Ooh, that's a good one. But we still can, Anonymous, we still can't see that one. This is this one, I think, right? So you can post the picture. What's the Amazing. Man, yeah. Oh. That's Rembrandt. Are people, oh, this is a good one also. This is Jeremiah. People, are we all still here? Anybody going to add some more paintings that we can look at? Where is the button to add a painting?
There's a plus button at the bottom on the right.
Plus button on the bottom on the right. That's what I thought. Oh, there it is. Okay. Dr. Feldman?
This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun for us. I love doing this. This is great. I love
Did
seeing what people
you
say.
post anything yet?
I did.
I mean, we're not going to talk about mine, but talking about the relationship between the past and the present and the past, this is Aristotle looking at a bust of Homer by Rembrandt, right? So that's cool. Dr. Feldman, why don't you choose from among these here and decide which one we'd like to talk about?
Well, we can let people vote.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
let people in the chat, the Zoom chat, people. We can do it either with the, you know what? Let's say we can do it on in the Padlet with the by likes.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's anonymous. Okay.
Can you do it? Yeah, people. Yeah, anonymously without signing in, people can. I see someone just added a like. You could like as many as you want. Just click on the. There you go. All right, it's working. I posted the Mennonite Preacher, which hangs in Berlin.
Why did you post that?
Next to, I wrote it. It hangs next to the angel. And as I was walking around, thanks to Google, walking around the gallery, I remembered, it's also a personal memory. I remember being there as a university student a long time ago and standing in front of that for a while. And I wrote my reasons, the sort of the gesture of this rich preacher. His wife has a fabulous expression on. She's like half listening, half amused, and the relationship between the writing and the visual version of it. And you always have to look, as I was saying in chat while you were describing eloquently the angel, Jacob and the angel. You always have to look for the light source especially in Northern European and Rembrandt.
Right,
And the light is sort of coming from the text itself.
right. From both books, right?
Yeah.
Her book also, which is very, very interesting. Not only is there this book, she has her own book, right?
She is.
Oh, did you have this? Not writing this.
I'm not sure. I think it's like a handkerchief. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I see. I'm wrong about that. Right.
I'm not sure she knows how to read.
Right. I mean, there are images that Rembrandt paints.
He's a little higher than she is. You're looking up
Right.
at both of them. Hey, let's see
Right.
what people are liking here. Let's look at the abduction of a unicorn. That's great.
Come on, people, vote early and often.
The milkmaid is in the lead.
Milkmaid is in the lead.
It's a beautiful painting. Milkmaid and
Oh,
what
it's gorgeous,
and what
right.
Dvora posted.
Which
Let's
is
see
what
how-
Laura posted.
Dvora Friedman here. I don't know if it's Dvora Friedman. I can vote Dvora.
Oh, this one over here. This one. What is this?
No, I don't know what that is. Yeah, I actually have no idea. Let me say.
I
Say
also
Saint
put that
George?
one.
No.
It's the
Oh,
it's about Eros. The divine
Yeah.
Eros defeats the earthly Eros.
Yes, thank you, Yuval. You posted it, then I remembered the name of it.
Oh, they're both. Oh, so they do have. Okay, so we have 4 of those. 4 votes for that, and currently 5 votes for the milkmaid. Okay, so anonymous poster of the milkmaid, please step forward and we'll find the link to it, which is it's right there on the wall. If you can approach it here,
I think Gabby posted it.
Yeah, it
Gabby.
was
All
me.
right.
Yeah.
So we'll find the link to the.
I think I put it. You can see my screen, right?
Great. Yeah. I'm gonna post the. Can you also put in the Zoom chat the milkmaid link so everyone can zoom in
I see.
the parts they want? There's the bravura element also here in painting of something that Vermeer, who also had an extraordinary skill, he did in 2 separate very famous paintings. One, a maid drawing water, that's just what it's called, and the milkmaid, where he paints, he renders just as a technical bravura virtuoso element. You can zoom in there on the milk, and to get that consistency of the liquid pouring out of the jug into the basin is extraordinary.
Mm.
And he does that also with the basin of water, the jug of water in a different painting. And the detail is
So
all
maybe.
right. So
Wait.
So
Miss-
Gabby, take it
what-
away.
Oh yeah, Gabby, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to hear what
Okay,
Gabby has to say
so
about it.
he's one of my favorite artists. The girl with the pearl earring is also one of his works. One of his more famous works, actually. And what I love about him is that he creates the beauty within such ordinary subject and subject matter, such as this milkmaid literally pouring milk onto a stove, or like with the girl in the pearl earring, or he has one called The Art of Painting. They're all very just like ordinary scenes that he's able to render into something a lot more special and sophisticated. People, going back to what we were discussing about Rembrandt, there have also been claims that a lot of his works also focuses on the female, and the female form, and there's also a sensuality within it, like a double meaning. But what I really liked is that the woman in the kitchen in those times was often I don't know, they weren't the elite. So I really enjoy that he takes these ordinary scenes and really raises them to a higher level where these women doing ordinary acts become something of beauty.
That's very beautiful, very nicely said, right? The way in which the everyday, I was going to ask you to what extent this is also about the secular or the sacred. And clearly, as you just said, Vermeer takes the everyday, the details of the everyday, as you said, the servant, the most, as you said, you put it more eloquently than I did, and he focuses our attention on it. He makes us see it. seeing the everyday.
Also, I think his colors, his use of color, he uses a lot of earthy tones in amongst, and blue. Blue is a big color that he uses. I don't know if it's anything to do with the Dutch like symbolism or you know, the like Delft, but it's something that he uses a lot that I find there's probably significance in that.
Wow, that's nice. Great. Should we look at one more, Dr. Feldman? Because I know it's getting late. Dr. Feldman?
Yeah, let's see what people who had to say something about the Eros. A lot of people liked it.
Which is the Eros one? Oh, the one on the top? No.
The one that was posted. Yeah, you just passed it. Devora and Yuval and a bunch of people also liked it.
Oh, this one? No.
Yeah.
Oh, this one.
The one on the left. The Chiaroscuro one on the
Oh,
on the
that
left
one.
of you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. What's that about?
Yeah, I don't know if people like it because of maybe for the opposite reason of what I'm just guessing. Did people like it because of the opposite reason of what Gabi just said? Because it is an epic, mythic, classical subject matter?
I liked it. I don't know, because it gave something, it's something completely different than the other painting that we just saw. It's dark. It's very focused on what's happening in the scene. There's nothing in the background, which I like. It's trying to show this is exactly what's happening. They don't want to
What's going? I don't even understand the drama here. Who are these characters?
So it's Eros the divine over Eros the human, basically. It's a fight against, from what I understand from the title, it's a fight against himself.
What's the title?
Let me check.
The divine Eros defeats the earthly Eros. Just on Yuval's point, I also see it as like, especially the colors, the distinction between black and white and the fights between each other. And I read it kind of as like the fight between the darkness and the lightness, and like how the angel is just overtaking the scene, and how the spiritual is overtaking the earthly.
It's
but
funny though, but doesn't the
whole
spiritual
image, the colors and everything stands out?
Well, isn't the spiritual itself kind of earthly? I mean, his arm.
Yes, like the merging of those two together.
I thought of it as like the superego versus the id, and the superego wins, right? Which is better, spiritual beauty or earthly beauty? But it seems this. I mean, maybe one of the paradoxes here is that the spiritual beauty is more beautiful than the earthly beauty. I mean, there is this erotic part here, I guess. Dr. Feldman? Dr. Feldman's with his new computer. Is Dr. Shupak here?
I want to hear a shout out from Esther.
Wow.
Esther and Sari are here.
Look at that. We're having a faculty meeting.
Also, in this painting, which I didn't notice before, in the left is the devil. Like you kind of almost don't see it, that reddishy brown in the left. And it's
what is that?
Also like adds another element to the painting.
Yeah, beautiful.
What is that? But what is that though? That's not part of his body. That's another person.
Yeah, that's the devil. The devil with.
And how do we know? How do we? You can see the devil. I mean, how do we know that?
In the description, it says.
Oh, it says that in the description.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was, so I read now, and it says the devil.
I accept it, but my question is still a good one. That it's not so obvious.
Yeah.
We should just
not
make.
At all.
You can't let the captions of the people in the museum make. I mean, it should help you see the painting and not define the painting in a way in which you don't see it, because it's clearly that is this demonic energy, but it also looks like it might be part of him, right? Meaning, so it complicates that idea of the spiritual. Is he on top of it?
It does look It does look like a third person because you do see a head and a shoulder, but it's unclear who this third person is in the scene.
Maybe
Like
my vision of I don't see it so well. So
You have to make
You
it
have to-
closer.
yeah.
Do you see it?
okay. Let's see.
Is the
It's
devil
almost
holding
like
him
a-
up? It almost looks like he's on the devil's shoulders.
Right, it's still complicated what's going on here. It's not. Is he on the devil's shoulder? Is he conquering the devil, or is
I
this?
saw this as like a fight for power almost, as that the divine Eros is in a fight with his earthly self, and the spiritual is beating the physical.
Mhm. Right. Okay. Good. I think did we do? I think this is our the conclusion of our night at the museum. Unless people had something else to add. I mean, let's wrap it up because Dr. Feldman has to put his
let's
children to
finish
bed.
up.
And
Oh, they're long asleep.
So Dr. Feldman, would you like just to sum up our evening for us?
Yeah, well, I'll let you do the sum in. I hope that you guys can see it. I do want to also, I want to just refer to you. I'm going to share the link here and everyone can look at it themselves. I hope you can. And I just want to take us back to what motivated all this. So you guys can check that out. And there. So this will be familiar to some of you. This is the room that kind of motivated also this whole project that hopefully you guys will all be invited to a year from now. And I'll say something, Professor Kohlbrenner, you're invited to, and I also, Professor Haddad is here. I don't know if she's listening. I don't know if you want to say something after what we say, you're really welcome to do so, because this room, which is
everyone. I'm enjoying listening to you.
Great. So this room, it's very close to where we do a lot of our research in the Israel Museum, is so-called the classical hall. It's the Greek hall where Hellenism is presented, the major cultures of the ancient world. Greek, there is what you're looking at in this copper figure, and that brownish reddish figure is the Emperor Trajan. The emperors a little bit behind you, if you turn around, in front of you, Roman, a Greek behind you, Roman in front of you. Everything here is from the Middle East. It's not only from the Middle East, it's from the land of Israel, from Palestine and Judea, from this place. And you're looking at it as if everything here belongs in Rome, and kind of does. And if we can go forward to the Aphrodite,
over here,
the Venus, that one that's in the glass case.
Yeah.
So here we have it to ourselves, and we had a terrific conversation here last year, which of course can't be replicated. And when we ever get back, and hopefully we will, we'll have a different conversation next time. But that headless figure is a figure of the goddess Venus, the goddess Aphrodite, as you guys now know from your studies in 193, the same figure with different names. It is also the goddess of love, the same kind of topic that we were just discussing. Here she is from a bathhouse in Israel, in the land of Israel. And there actually is a story in the Jewish tradition, in the Mishnah, about that, about Gamliel, about the confrontation with these Roman pagan gods in the context of the traditional, the birthplace of monotheism. And if we can go, I don't know if they'll let you go even closer to the balustrade. Can you click?
Dr. Feldman, was
Yeah.
this statue made without the head, or they found
No.
it without the
heads
head?
and arms. You can look all around. Heads and arms. No, it had a head and had arms. The heads and arms were lost, as often is the case, by the way. What is behind us? I guess we can't get past there. But what is in that hall? And this is just the message that I want to leave you with. And then Professor Kohlbrenner, Professor Haddad, if you want to add, Professor Dr. Schupek, of course, is that what is behind there now, this is a different place, but is that what the narrative, and it's also here in this hall, by the way, these are Latin, monumental inscriptions, is that they're trying to give the impression that the birthplace of monotheism is also a cradle of Western civilization. And that these ideas that you guys are studying throughout your first year or whatever point you are in your programs, MA students, in which we are inculcating in you a kind of rich appreciation, as we've done tonight, of how what happens in Amsterdam or in Rome or in Paris or New York or Hollywood is just as germane to your lives, and you have just as much to contribute to it as we have always from our perch here in the Middle East. That and what is beyond, what's even more moving is that behind that Aphrodite, on if you go down the stairs, and hopefully we'll go there all together in person next year, is an ancient church, an ancient mosque, and an ancient synagogue. And that this kind of conversation that has been between various cultures, and of course between various times and different eras that we talked about when we started tonight looking at the Aeneas, has always been the legacy of this extremely complicated place. It's not that, in 1948 suddenly Israel became a complicated place where different cultures were vying with each other. The point of that hall, where you can see Roman and Greek painting and the three ancient houses of worship, is that is what the conversation has always been. Mm-hmm. We are not sort of interlopers, people intruding into these traditions. They've been created here by people like you. They have been sometimes messages of colonialism, sometimes indigenous, but that the religious and the secular, the aesthetic and the erotic, the different traditions have always been in conversation with each other. And the point of education, the point of your education, of a good college training, of university life, and it's also reflected, by the way, in your faculty, the 4 members who are here with you right now, is that you are joining that conversation. We are part of it, and all we want for you is for you to participate in it as well. That's it for me, and my colleagues can have the final words.
So just one thing I want to add to that really is, Dr. Feldman talks about conversation, and we are part of that conversation. But what's really changed, and I said this at the very beginning of our meeting tonight, is that in the 17th and 18th century, in our tradition, the one we're studying, the different stories that were competing with each other, competing for the past, competing for the present, competing for the future, they became so antagonistic towards one another that they nearly killed each other, right? That's what happens in the 17th century in England. They did kill each other, civil war. So what gets invented is liberalism. And in liberalism, it's a little bit different, meaning our job is, and it's a big one and it's a hard one, is not to approach other traditions and take from them and deny them, which is what's been happening for centuries and generations. Romans to Greeks, Christians to Jews. The story is always one of defining myself in relationship to a past which I am in a way going to negate and take for my own. For us, and one of our students last year at the end of our museum tour wrote an article in the Jerusalem Post about the trip that we took. And she pointed out that it's not only being able to, everybody talks about, well, how do you have conversation? How do you create a community? And it's very important to listen. And that's true, of course. But she said, and I thought this is just really very, very insightful, that you not only have to listen, but you have to be able to tell your own story with kindness. You have to tell your story in a way that leaves room for other people. So we have kind of the challenge that we approach these other cultures, we learn from them, because I think we do, inevitably, that's what Dr. Feldman was saying, we learn from them, but we also respect them. And part of what our job together and what we do, and what we really aspire to do in the English department, is to listen to each other's stories. And that going to a place like this building and seeing the 3 places of worship of the 3 different religions, there they coexist in the museum. And our imperative, our job, is to make them coexist, or to try to have them coexist together. And that's not only listening, but it's being able to tell your story with kindness, to leave room for another person to tell their story. It's harder than we think, right? How do we know it's harder than we think? Read the newspaper, right? Okay, so thank you everybody for coming. And we'll try to take another trip someplace at some point. Well, hopefully not during lockdown. Okay, bye everybody.
Thank you for a lovely, discussion.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
I should
Happy
look up.
2021, everybody.
Professor Kolbener, I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna like my Aristotle painting.
I was going to. I'm so distracted by the technology.
I thought I was the only one who actually liked it.
No, I love that painting. I love that painting.
Okay. Thank you for this.
Okay. Hi Esther, how are you?
Bill, you can end the recording.
All
Just
right.
stop the recording.
Stop share right now. Recording.